What up, everybody? Happy Hump Day. Welcome to another edition of Giants Collective, powered by BetUS. Of course, I'm your guy, Bad Dog, as always, joined by Adriana, Anatana, Anthony over here, and special guest tonight, the one and only Bobby Skinner. So we'll welcome Bobby aboard in a second. Just want to also mention that you can check out Giants Collective, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and wherever else you may find your podcast. And if you could leave us a 5-star review on anything you listen to, that would be awesome as well. Also, Giants Collective is now uploading content to Instagram and TikTok. Links in the description below. You want to follow us on Instagram and TikTok, that would be great as well. We also have added memberships to the channel, so if you're interested in becoming a member, you just hit that join button. You'll get custom emojis, monthly member messages. You're going to get your name in the outro credits starting next week, and they'll have access to member-only live chat. So those are all kinds of things going on here at Giants Collective. Want to say a special thank you to Bobby for joining us tonight. Bobby, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me on, and thank you for the one episode where we have to face the reality of what the Giants schedule is this year.
Perfect timing for you to come on. Let people know where they can find you, Bobby.
Yeah, it's Giants Nation Show, where just look up Giants Nation Show. It should show up. Yeah, that's basically it. Or on Twitter at Bobby Skinner _. But Giants Nation Show.
So the over optimistic feeling we all had, Bobby, after the draft is now gone away.
Well, listen, I could sit here and talk about like, hey, the edge group or this. When I did my schedule release reaction video, and I'm like, you know what I'm not doing? I'm not doing a record prediction because I'm not going through this and doing win-loss. You know what the thing that bothers me the most about the schedule? And it's not just like, oh, it's the hardest strength of schedule, right? And because that never plays throughout the whole year. They won't, at the end, probably won't have the hardest. But the teams that have like the bad records are like the 49ers, who went 6-7. They'll likely be better. The Bears went 5-12. I fall for Chicago every year, but they're really talented. The Raiders got a quarterback after having the worst QB room in the NFL last year. And then even the Patriots, they went 4-13. Like, you have Drake May year 2, better coaching. Like, even the teams with the bad records have like things that are pointing up for them. So it gets kind of tough for the Giants, where it's like, man, they might steal some, but they're gonna need to steal quite a bit to have a successful year.
So no optimism here. We got everybody on Twitter today was going crazy. Anthony seems very optimistic. Well, while we're talking about it, why don't we just bring this up now? Why don't we just do this? Let me get rid of these things, and we'll give our reaction to what's going on here. And I know that's not the best, but shout out to Bobby for uploading this to his Bobby Skinner at Bobby Skinner on Twitter. So let's check it out, guys and girls. This is the schedule. Now, we knew who we were playing. We didn't know how it was structured, and I think that's what starts to get people a little bit worried. But as always, you start with the lady first. So, Adriana, give us your take on this schedule, and how do you think? You don't need to give us a win-loss record. Just give us the reaction to it.
Well, I think, like we were just talking about, we knew it was going to be hard. We were prepared for this, I think, to some degree. And then actually seeing the way that it's laid out is horrifying. I mean, 2 division rivals in 2 weeks to start off the season. Then we can't even get a home 1:00 game. We have to play the Chiefs on prime time. And there are a couple things that make me feel a little bit better. Like, I think the schedule's awful. I think it's probably going to be a really tough road for us this year. But we all obviously felt good after the draft. I feel like the Giants had a good free agency this year. I'm like cautiously optimistic. And one of the things that I feel better about as a whole is the fact that we have Russ Wilson. And he's not Tom Brady, he's not Patrick Mahomes, but when you look at last year when we had a pretty tough schedule, we were going into the season with Daniel Jones. Like, I just have to feel a little bit more optimistic. The fact that we have a quarterback who's really experienced. He's obviously played all of these other quarterbacks. He knows, how to prepare and what to look for. And he's really excited going into this year. So I feel a little bit of optimism of like, if at least we're going to have better play at the quarterback position. Jalen Hyatt has untapped potential. Russ Wilson is so all in on Jalen Hyatt that I'm trying to get on board with that. And I just think, that there are some games that We have the potential to win. I don't think it's going to be a completely lost season. And if it's a lost season, at least we can be excited about seeing Jackson Dart. So if, they suck like they did last year and they've got an awful record and Russ looks terrible by week 10, then I think at least as fans, we could be like, well, at least we're going to see Jackson Dart. We have something to be excited about instead of talking about the draft in week 10. So I don't know. Those are like the little things that I think are making me feel a little bit excited. And, of course, Abdul Carter and the pass rush, they were leading the NFL in sacks last year. So if they can get remotely back to that or be a little bit better, then I think we have a chance at winning some games. And the NFL is a week-to-week league. We never thought the Giants were going to make the playoffs in 22. You never know what can happen. If Patrick Mahomes gets injured week 2, maybe we have a chance at winning at home Sunday Night Football. You never know.
Yeah. We're going to work from the bottom to the top today because it's kind of a weird layout. Chris, what was your reaction to the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, you look at and like you said, we knew going in before the layout of the schedule came out, we knew it was going to be super challenging just based off the divisions we're playing, right? The AFC West, the NFC North, 2 of the stronger divisions in the league. But you don't know until the season starts, right? In 2022, like Adriana just said, going into the year, when you think back to that schedule before the season started, I looked at it, I'm like, okay, so we have to travel to London to play the Packers, and then we come back on short rest to play the Baltimore Ravens. That's an automatic L. We have no chance. And things change throughout the course of the year, whether it be due to injuries, whether it be due to the fact that the Giants play better. So I'm not going to go into the year saying we have no shot to have a fairly successful year. But looking at the schedule, I mean, right off the bat, you play 2 divisional opponents, both on the road. You're lucky if you get a split there based off recent history, how we've played in the division, even though I do think Dallas will be vulnerable this year. Kansas City on primetime. The Chargers, who I've said on this show is my sleeper pick this year to go to the Super Bowl. I'm also the biggest Harbaugh fan in the world. But then even after you get past those first 4 games that a lot of people were talking about on Twitter that Art Stapleton laid out about a day or 2 ago, when I saw the second 4 games, I'm like, it doesn't look much better. You're playing the defending Super Bowl champs 2 out of the next 4. And then you play New Orleans isn't great, but in terms of environment, tough places to play, it's hard to find a tougher place to play outside of Seattle than New Orleans and Denver with the mile-high altitude. So it is a really, really hard start to the schedule. And like Bobby said earlier, when you look at a lot of these teams, you think Chicago's on the way up. Caleb Williams' second year. Now he's got a real offensive coordinator with Ben Johnson. Chicago should be much better. New England, Drake May showed a lot of promise there in the second half of the season when he got an opportunity. They should be much better. And, of course, Detroit, Green Bay, we already know those teams are legit. San Francisco's kind of 50-50. You don't know if they're coming or going. But this is a really tough schedule. And Anthony actually said this on Twitter. I thought it was a great point, and I'm sure he'll say it. Sorry to steal your thunder, Anthony. The way that the schedule lays out with the bye, if the Giants could hold out that long, if they're not like 1-11, I think it sets up perfectly to insert the rookie quarterback in Jackson Dart for those last 4 games. He gets an extra week to prepare. If you're able to tread the line and have 5 wins at that point, you're out of playoff contention. He gets his feet wet. He gets to learn those last 4 games. And there's somewhat winnable games down the stretch, 3 of which are at home. So I think from that standpoint, and that's probably, if we're being honest, the most important thing this year, the growth of what we hope will be the next franchise quarterback, I think that is a perfect setup to insert him into the lineup if they could hold out that long. So from that standpoint, I think it sets up well. But overall, schedule is tough on paper, but paper could change.
Anthony, you seem to be pretty, I don't want to say optimistic, but it doesn't seem to bother you as much as it did other people, like on Twitter. Like, it's already over. Look at 2026. What do you think?
You could say optimistic because I've been saying that I'm optimistic about this team throughout the offseason. Obviously, I've had a reputation for being pretty pessimistic in the past, but I've maintained my stance. I'm optimistic about the team this offseason because Bobby's right, Chris is right. A lot of these teams that the Giants are facing did get a lot better. So did the New York Giants. They really overhauled the quarterback room. I think that Russell Wilson makes everyone around him a better player. I think the offensive line will look better. I think the receiving core will look better. I think everything on offense should look better because the Giants have at least an average quarterback. So I think that's a big selling point. The Giants should be a better football team and should match up a lot better with a lot of these teams that they're facing. But also, the schedule, the way that it's structured, doesn't change the fact that it's still the same opponents that we knew we were going to face. So it just doesn't change anything for me. I'm still optimistic the same way that I was. And in fact, I'll even throw out a few reasons for optimism based on the schedule. They face 6 second-year quarterbacks. We always say it's a year-to-year league. Things change week to week in this league. But if you want to talk about projecting teams that played well last year into the next year, sophomore slumps at the quarterback position, we always talk about them. Whether we're talking about a team that maybe just gets off to a slow start with their second-year quarterback, like the Houston Texans still inevitably made the playoffs because they play in a weak division, but we all know that early in the year, C.J. Stroud didn't look like he did in his rookie year. That's just one example. I think Daniel Jones is also a great example of a quarterback who had a sophomore slump, and you can find many other examples. But the Giants face 6 second-year quarterbacks this season. They should theoretically be able to steal at least 1, 2, maybe 3 or 4 of those games if you are really optimistic, just because of how the league goes with the sophomore slumps at the quarterback position. Then on top of that, a lot of these other teams that they're facing, 3 rookie head coaches. Rookie head coaches also have weeks where they're just off their game. And so the Giants should be able to steal 1 or 2 of those games if they live up to our expectations and are the improved team that we think that they are. And then additionally, a couple of the other teams they face, like the Detroit Lions and the Philadelphia Eagles, have major coordinator changes. The last time the Eagles had a coordinator change prior to this past season, but the year prior, they kind of fell apart. They got bounced out in the first round of the playoffs. That really affected them. Then they brought in Kellen Moore, they bounced back, and they won a Super Bowl. But will they have that same success this time around? Maybe not. So the Detroit Lions as well, losing their OC and their DC. So when you're looking at all the teams the Giants are facing, yes, a lot of them did get better, but the Giants got better, and they face a lot of teams that people are optimistic about, but you still got to see it to believe it. Same way we are with the Giants, where we say this defensive line on paper looks like it could be one of the best in the league, but we still got to see it to believe it. I feel the same way about Chicago with Caleb Williams going into year 2. I feel the same way about Bo Nix. Is he going to maintain his pace after a good rookie season? And are the Lions still going to be the juggernaut that they were without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? So I just think the amount of variance, roster and coaching staff turnover, if you look at it in a vacuum, if you were optimistic about the Giants before you saw the schedule, you should still be optimistic about the New York Giants. So that's kind of the stance that I'm going to take here. Still optimistic about it. It definitely is a brutal schedule, but I will say this. We don't have any holiday games, which I'm happy about, and we've only got 3 primetime games. We're avoiding the bright lights, and I do think that's a good thing for this team that's trying to bounce back from a 3-14 season. So still optimistic, still hoping for a winning season, probably not getting one admittedly, but I do think it's going to be a much better year than last year's. And you know what? The schedule, again, in September is completely different than the one you get in December and January. So there's plenty of room for optimism.
Well, you said Daniel Jones had a sophomore slump. Now you have a sophomore slump. You had a junior and a senior slump as well. And he's even in grad school slumping. But, hey, good luck to him in Indianapolis. Bobby, when you initially saw the schedule, what was your reaction to the way it was structured?
The structure... Really, I actually kind of like the structure of it. Like Anthony said, if you're optimistic before, you should be optimistic. Unfortunately, I wasn't super optimistic before because I knew what the schedule was. But I do actually like the structure. I always look at week 1, man, because I feel like starting off 1-0 can make a huge difference. And the Giants haven't done it, and there are only 2 times where they've done it in the last 10 years. They've made the playoffs in those years with teams that weren't projected to have a lot of success. And when you look at the outside of the Saints and your first 8 games, I actually think Washington is the second best matchup outside of the Saints on that. Jaden Daniels is really good, but the Giants got close to beating him twice last year. Now they added Laremy Tunsil, Josh Carnley. We'll see how he is a rookie, but Laremy Tunsil's a real deal addition. That defense is not talented. And it's Dan Quinn should have won coach. Maybe did he win coach of the year? Dan Quinn should have won coach of the year for getting that defense to the playoffs, no matter how good that offense was with Jaden Daniels. I think they lack serious talent on defense. And even some of the names you like Bobby Wagner is not what he once was. Marshawn Lattimore really struggled for Washington last year. You remember Mike Evans just taking advantage of him in that playoff game. So my point of optimism is 1-0. Start 1-0, and then you get me on board a little bit. My worry though is you start 0-3, you lose on Sunday Night Football. It's I think this regime has been very reactive, and we all may talk about patience and whatnot. The calls for Jackson Dart will start soon, and they will be loud. Hell, they'll start after 0-1, and you'll really start feeling it after 0-3.
We saw it with Daniel Jones his rookie year after 0-2 when we lost to Buffalo. Going into that year, you figured Eli's going to play at least half the year. He's making $20 million a year. and the pressure came and they threw him in. So I think that's a good point, and I think that is a legitimate fear that they may rush Jackson Dart in there probably before they should if they do get off to a slow start. So makes that first couple of games even more important.
The one thing I'll say about the way this is structured is this. Number one, I do think we can beat Washington. I honestly do. I mean, technically, I mean, I don't want to say technically because you don't know what would have happened. But if Malik Neighbors catches the pass on 4th down, we have a chance to win the game. I mean, the ball was right in his hands. He just dropped it. I mean, we don't know if they would have scored. The Giants have had trouble scoring for 6 years. So there's no question that didn't guarantee us a score. But we were right in that game. And we lost by 5 points the second time we played them. To Bobby's point, their defense isn't very good. And now you are going to have legitimate quarterback playing Russell Wilson. Sure, he's not what he was 10 years ago either, but he's better than what we had there. You got Malik Neighbors in his second year. So I always feel like we can do well against Washington. I know they had a great year, and I know that Jaden Daniels is a really good quarterback. I love him. I think he's awesome. But I always feel confident against Washington. I just do. And maybe it's because we've beaten them so many times. But I'd much rather play them week 1 than Philadelphia, where I hate to say it because I hate the Eagles. We don't match up well with them. I mean, they can nullify pretty much everything we do because I think our pass rush is going to be great, but they have the best offensive line in football. The one thing I'm going to say about this, the way this is structured is this. To me, if I'm going to be optimistic or look at this glass half full, is the toughest part of our schedule seems to be the beginning of the year, but this is when we should be the healthiest as well. So I think we're going to have a better chance to win some of these games early on if we are healthy, because we see what happens when we're not. I mean, it really falls apart. If you can get out of those first 4 games 2-2, or the first 5 games 2-3, even maybe 3-2, then you're looking at something there. But I think that stretch where you're looking at Philadelphia, at Denver, at Philadelphia, and then San Francisco, that stretch is difficult, I think. But those first 4 games, man, the Chargers, they're tough. They're traveling across the country. I mean, they're not – I don't think they're world beaters. I know you love Harbaugh, Chris, and I think they're a good team, but I don't think they're world beaters. And Kansas City last year, Kansas City won how many one-possession games? It's not like they were blowing the doors off of anybody, and we saw what Philadelphia did to them. They just ran right through their line and got to Mahomes all day. They didn't blitz one time, and they kicked his ass. So you can look at it from that perspective. You want to be optimistic. If you want to be pessimistic, or some people say realistic, yeah, this schedule blows. It's tough. But what I try to tell people when they look at the schedule, why do the Giants have such a tough schedule? Well, every team in the NFC East plays the same 12 teams, and then we play each other. The reason our schedule, like our strength schedule, is so tough is because the 3 teams in our division had really good years last year, where they played the Giants twice. We had a terrible year. So their strength of schedule actually gets lower. And then, of course, there's 3 other matchups where we play the Saints, and Philadelphia play the first, whoever won that division last year. I don't remember who won that. Tampa Bay. They'll play Tampa Bay. You know, we play the AFC. We play the Patriots, where Philadelphia will play the Bills or whatever. That's usually how that goes. But we play 12 of the 17 teams are the same. So it's not like they were out to get the Giants. It's just the way the divisions fell, and our division's extremely tough too. But I don't know. I ain't going to give you win-losses, but I ain't going to lie. I mean, I think we all knew we had a tough schedule. We all talked about it before the year started. But this is, like to Anthony's point, this is a much better team. The Giants are a much better team. How that translates in the field, who knows? But I think that the Giants are going to be much more competitive this year. And I think Bobby mentioned it, when we're very impatient and we might, crowd is going to start wanting Jackson Dart. I got to give Joe Schoen credit for being very patient this offseason. I feel like he was aggressive, but he wasn't desperate. I don't think Joe Schoen is going to tip his hand that fast, because Chris, you mentioned this before. If they bring in Jackson Dart week 4 against the Chargers, you can't pull him at that point.
No,
he's in there for the rest of the year. And if he stinks, you're gone. I mean, it's just,
I don't think they'll go to him that early regardless. I'm just saying that it gets loud, and then you'll get
it's
him a lot earlier.
It's a fear that creeps up in your head.
Is you'll get him a lot earlier than what everyone's predicting right now.
Yeah.
Well, we did see that happen with the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. It was only week 2 when he got in the starting lineup. So there could be some credence to that idea that the noise will get really loud and maybe they will cave pretty early. Yeah. Obviously, that worked for them, though, with Josh Allen.
I think Peterman got injured in that, but Peterman was so bad that
he was.
It was, and Josh Allen stunk as a rookie as well too. But obviously they were patient and developed, and where if you have that type of season out of Dart, I don't think these people keep their jobs. Yeah. So again, it's just at the end of the day, did the Giants make upgrades? Yes, but I sure as hell hope they did after having the worst record in the NFL. Like, I sure hope they upgraded quite a bit, and they upgraded the most important position at quarterback. But this is where I keep coming back to reality: is yes, they upgraded a quarterback. All right, let's do a quarterback rankings list. Where's Russ?
He's fourth, if I'm being honest. At this stage
In the division, easily, but like even in the NFL,
division,
he's in the 20s. I think we even talked about this entertain on our.
We did on your show, yeah. I think we settled right around the low to mid.
I'm going to do it for a mailbag and like put together an actual QB rankings list, and like Russ falls at like the top of the 20s if you're optimistic about him, or 18th or 19th, and that's not going to be an advantage. And I mean, let me go.
Well, look at our
Russ realistically is not an advantage over the other quarterback.
If you
in the first 10 weeks, except for the Saints.
Exactly. I mean, maybe you could argue Denver. I could see Bo Nix having a sophomore slump, but obviously Denver replaced Russ with Bo Nix.
Yeah.
So you look at our schedule. Maybe there's one, maybe two games where you could definitively say the Giants have a quarterback advantage. Maybe you could argue JJ McCarthy. He's an unknown in Minnesota. But by that point in the season, you're going to know what he is. Las Vegas, so there's definitely some spots where you could say it. But overall, yeah, I think week to week, even though we have improved, like you said, at the quarterback spot, we're still the team we're playing as the better quarterback in most scenarios.
And listen, injuries happen to other teams as well. The issue is I think the Giants are really dependent on a handful of guys be staying healthy. Andrew Thomas being, one of those guys. And honestly, I think Russ needs to be healthy too, because as much as Jameis can go in there and he'll throw for 300 yards, he's a losing quarterback. He loses you games. Dart, I don't want to see early for his own sake, even though I think you could probably string together a very basic RPO, play action, dial up some shot type of offense for him. But you're not doing that with Jameis if you go to him if Russ gets injured, and Jameis will lose you games. So it's just the reality. It's the Giants won 3 games last year. I think they had a very smart offseason, right? Not trading for Matthew Stafford, signing Russ, which I thought was a smart signing. But unfortunately, you need more than a smart offseason to get you better than a bottom of the league team. Even like let's say you're Jackson Dart's biggest fan in that draft. Well, he's not going to play right away. Abdul Carter, instant impact. Darius Alexander, hopefully he's like a neutral player, but I don't think he helps the run defense as much as people want to think right away. Cam Scatterbo, he's splitting carries, at best. Marcus Bowe isn't going to play right away. So when you look at the draft class, even though, hey man, they got the guys I want in the 4th and 5th round. 2 of those guys are going to be playing right away, and that's Abdul Carter and Darius Alexander.
And that's kind of a good thing, though, Bobby, because I think in recent years with these draft classes, we've seen them play like Trey Hawkins, who you were the biggest fan of. They threw him into the starting lineup week 1 out of Old Dominion. The fact that these guys aren't going to play right away, doesn't that speak a little bit to the improvement in terms of the overall roster, that they don't feel the need to throw these guys into prominent roles week 1?
And I think that's where this is the best Giants team under Joe Schoen.
Yeah.
Because he didn't there is not. When you look at the Giants, you don't have like this is a clear, real bad hole. Unfortunately, when you don't look at a bunch of big strengths either, but you don't have these, like bringing back Greg Van Roten. It's such a smart signing. It's something that when you went on the 2023 draft, it's like, why didn't you bring back Feliciano for $2.5 million? Not because he's great, but it helps you out going into the draft. My point being, I forgot where I was fucking going with this. What was your question, Chris?
No, I was just saying the fact that these guys aren't going to have such.
But that's the thing but the guys who did put in that situation last year, Drew Phillips, Tyler Nubin, Theo Johnson, we need to see real deal steps up for them, because they had solid rookie seasons. We need Nubin and Drew Phillips to have better than a combined 1 interception and pass breakup. Theo Johnson can't just be someone we're counting his snaps. He's got to be a real deal contributor. So we need to see improvements out of that class too, because Flash is fun as a rookie. Year 2 is time to become a real player and not just show flashes.
Yeah, he's got to cut down on the fumbling too. That's a big problem. And we're going to go right here, since you mentioned the quarterbacks. Let's go here. Big shout out to BetUS for powering this stream. You can go to BetUS, check out their site. Enter the promo code YouTube150. You get a 150% match deposit bonus on your first deposit, 125% match deposit bonus on your second and third deposits, all the way up to $2,000 bonus cash. They have great customer service 24/7, 365. You get the fastest payouts in the business within 24 hours. And you get 10% gambler's insurance against all your net losses as long as you stay active every 6 months. Terms and conditions apply. And when you gamble, please do it responsibly. Never bet more than you can afford to lose. And you can see the graphic here. Which team has the best quarterback? Do you, Adrian, you've been sitting there quietly. Is Russ better than Dak Prescott? I'm not going to say Russ is better than the other two because I don't think he is at this point. Is he better than Dak? Piss the Cowboys fans off. Do it.
I think he'll be better than him this year.
He could be. I wouldn't be stunned if he is. He could be.
I just think I'm with Bad Dog that I think the Cowboys are going to take a step back. They have a new coach. No one is talking about the fact that Schottenheimer is their new coach. Like, I think everyone's kind of just assuming they're going about business as usual. They brought in Pickens, which in theory is great, but I can see him being a nuisance by week 2 when CeeDee Lamb gets all of the receptions and he's going to blow up their locker room, I think. They still have a running back problem. Jerry Jones is still the GM. And look, Dak is a good quarterback. He's great during the regular season, but he chokes in the playoffs. And I think if the Giants could magically make the playoffs, then Russ is better than him this year.
We haven't beat Dak.
Unfortunately, we only played Dak in the regular season, and he's beat us 13.
Yeah, every single time.
We haven't beat the Giants stats.
Season.
They beat you down because I used to be like, we won 2 Super Bowls. You get like every year I'm all in. But the Giants beat you down. We haven't beaten Dak in 13 straight games. That's crazy. We haven't won in Philly since what was it, 2013? That's like an insane stat. That
was Matt Barkley was our quarterback when we beat them in Philly. Matt Barkley. I think we beat them like 15-7. It was not pretty.
Hey, I watched Matt Barkley in the All-American game. I was a big fan, and then he ended up not panning out the way I hoped.
You know what? Don't feel bad. I think a lot of GMs could say the same thing about, we like this kid here, and it didn't end up the way we hoped. Anthony, is Russ better than Dak?
No. I think Dak Prescott is a really good quarterback. I think the Cowboys have a better roster. The Giants are the worst team in this division. Like, I am optimistic about them, and I think they'll steal a couple games in the division this year because they did improve in a lot of spots. But Dak Prescott, he wasn't playing great last year before he got hurt, but the season prior, he was a legitimate MVP candidate. So, he's still a good player, and I still think Dallas has a lot of weapons around him. Obviously, George Pickens joining CeeDee Lamb. They have some issues on the offensive line. Running back's not really a strong spot for them anymore, but I still think that Dak Prescott is arguably a top 10 to 15 quarterback in the NFL.
Does the new coach, does that help or hurt him, you think?
I think it probably hurts him. It's a rookie head coach. So that was, part of the statistic that I said earlier. The Giants faced 3 rookie head coaches. I think Schottenheimer, his inexperience, he'll have a couple of lapses. The Cowboys inevitably will lose a couple of games due to having a rookie head coach, like it always happens. So I do think that hurts Dak Prescott, but I also think, again, the addition of George Pickens and just the fact that he seemingly should be healthy going into this year, those things help Dak Prescott.
Yeah, George Pickens is a really good receiver if he can keep his brain together. Bobby, I'm not going to ask you to do the prediction here, but do you have a ceiling and a floor of what you think the Giants can win this year?
Oh boy. Can you pull up that schedule graphic again real quick?
I certainly can.
Ceiling?
Go back.
Boy.
There we go.
A floor? 3 or 4 wins. This is look at I wish we would go look up the odds or whatever. The Saints is the only game where it's like a concrete W. Raiders would probably be like that number 2-1, but and then Minnesota, we'll see what they are if they're healthy. I'm not a big fan of JJ McCarthy, but I do think you'll find some success in that offense. The Patriots could be in there. So, but in the reality, 4 ceiling, I'll say 8 and 9 as a ceiling. Realistic ceiling. I have stopped using the word just ceiling in itself. I use realistic ceiling. 8 and 9.
Adriana, what do you think?
I agree. I think looking at the schedule and the way it is now, I think 8 to 9 is assuming that most of the roster stays healthy. That to me is the biggest thing. I think if someone gets injured, if Andrew Thomas goes down again, forget it. I mean, it's just, even though we actually have swing tackles on the roster this year, they're not great swing tackles. So I still don't feel great about Stone Forsythe or James Hudson coming in, like if Andrew Thomas goes down. So, I think health is going to be a big factor. And, I think best case scenario is 9 wins. That's everyone's healthy and they beat teams that they shouldn't. Like they go 2-0. If they go 2-0 to start, then I think we could feel pretty optimistic that this team could probably get 9 wins. But I think even if they go 2-0, I don't think anyone's thinking that we're playoff bound. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I just think looking at the schedule, looking and being reasonable about this team, the way that the roster is, all the questions marks that we have, especially around Shane Bowen and health and things like that. The offensive line, I think anything more than 10 wins is a full on miracle.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk myself into in a best case scenario 9 wins, like kind of what Bobby said earlier. Like, what if, or maybe it was Anthony that said it, like, what if some of these second-year quarterbacks don't hit the projection that a lot of people think they're going to, like a Drake May, like a Caleb Williams? Suddenly those teams look more favorable than we're viewing them right now because we think those quarterbacks will ascend. So it's really hard to judge the schedule before a season starts, but I won't rule out 9 wins. To go back to that graphic, it really doesn't matter if Russell Wilson's the 3rd best quarterback in the division, the 4th best quarterback in the division. I think he's the 4th best quarterback in the division. But if the Giants are going to win 9 games this year, it's not going to be because of Russell Wilson. It's going to be because of that defense. That's where they brought in the immediate impact players, both in free agency and in the draft. So that's where they're going to win games this year. They're going to win it with their defense and having Russell Wilson being able to manage the game and Malik Neighbors making some big plays and being able to control the clock with that strengthened running back core. So, that's the way I look at it. But if the defense plays as well as we're hoping, like if they hit their ceiling and some of these teams maybe aren't quite as good as we think they may be, I don't think 9 wins is out of the question. I wouldn't predict it. I'm probably in that 5 or 6 win range. But I think 9 wins is an appropriate ceiling.
Vegas is in that range as well. So yeah. I think the over-under is 5.5. Anthony, what is your floor and ceiling on this schedule?
Floor is probably 3 wins, ceiling 9. I think, the Giants, we weren't super optimistic going into 2022. I don't think, obviously there were reasons for optimism with a rookie head coach in Dable, but because he was a rookie head coach, I think probably most of us predicted around 6 wins. They overachieved and they got 9. So I think if we're all kind of predicting around that 6-win cluster this year, the overachieving would then again be 9 as a ceiling and the underachieving would be 3 as the floor. So that's kind of what I predict. But, I think that, again, there's reasons to be optimistic, but it is a grueling schedule. But I think that Brian Dable, for all his faults last year, there were moments over the last 2 years where I think he did keep the Giants competitive in games that they shouldn't have been in and even won them games that they shouldn't have won. I really think back to Green Bay prime time with Tommy DeVito as a starting quarterback. So I give a lot of credit in that game. Obviously, yes, of course, to Mr. Cutlets, but I give a lot of credit to Brian Dable and his ability to fight back in some of those tough moments and really make something out of nothing. So I think they'll get a couple of surprise wins. And like I said, I'm optimistic, but if I had to, I'll give a win-loss projection. I think they're going to win about 7 games this season.
Yeah, I mean, the floor could fall out of this team with this schedule. I mean, it absolutely could, but I do think they could surprise me. Like I said, the beginning of the year, it looks very daunting, but I do feel like we can beat Washington. I do feel like Dallas and I know Dak has kicked our ass for years, but I just feel like we got a lot closer to Dallas. And again, with a rookie head coach, Dak coming off an injury, he's got to, get that chemistry of George Pickens. I mean, obviously, as it with CeeDee Lamb, they don't really have a great running game. I mean, I don't think Dallas is really a great team. I definitely think that it's tough that it's in Dallas, but I feel like the Giants could sneak one out. And you never know what happens in division games. And I'm telling you, man, I know Kansas City, it's the Chiefs. They're in the Super Bowl every year. It's Andy Reid, it's Pat Mahomes. I get it. They're 2 of the greatest in the history of the NFL, but they won games, but they were not ultra impressive in like any of them. I mean, the Panthers gave them a game last year. The Eagles blew them out. Kansas City won on a lot of come from behind victories. They won on 54-yard field goals. They won on missed field goals, blocked field goals. I mean, they won every way you can win. And it's because they're coached very well and they're a very good team. And a lot of times when you're a good team, you get good breaks in your direction. But I don't feel like they're better than us. I mean, don't get me wrong. But I mean, I don't know, man. I want to say we could beat them, but I don't feel like they're going to kill us. And then same thing with the Chargers. I don't think the Chargers are like a high-powered offense. I think if we play the Chargers the way the Giants should play football, which is down, dirty, murky, and ugly, and we can win a game 22-20 against the Chargers. I can see them ceiling, like you guys said, about 8 or 9 wins. I can definitely, kind of like we were in 2022. But there's no question, man. Those are some good teams last year, but Dave will tell you it's a year-to-year league, and you don't know what you're going to get this year, and we're going to find out in September. Before we get to the questions in the chat, Bobby, I did want to ask you this because we've talked about this on this show before. Do you think there's a win total that the Giants must get for Dable and Schoen to keep their job?
No, because John Mara just kind of operates at the beat of his own drum, and will use whatever he wants to justify making whatever decision he wants. So, no, I actually don't think there is. But there should be, right? Like all this tough schedule. The fact that they were brought back, to me, doesn't mean that this is a fresh slate. Like it's year 4. You should win games. That should be the expectation of a year 4 GM. It's either win games or Jackson Dart, when he plays, has to show us he's a real deal quarterback beyond a reasonable doubt. Not Flash, right? Flash, you don't buy into Flash. And even if Jackson Dart does look fairly solid, like, oh, well, we can't partner him up with Brian Dable. No, if Jackson Dart's a real deal quarterback, you should be able to find an offensive coordinator that he can work with. You can't tell me that you drafted this guy in the first round and the only person he can work with to be successful is Brian Dable. Obviously, you want to see Brian Dable envision him. You don't want to see the Giants make the same mistake of bringing in a Jason Garrett and you lose the vision that was there for that QB. But at the end of the day, I don't think even if you got the best OC, Garrett Jones would be someone we're still super hyped about. I mean, we look at, Dable, he got the most out of him in 2022, but eventually it tapped out. But there should be. The expectation should be to win games this year for a year 4 regime that has gotten to fire 2 coordinators, replaced over half of the position coaches. The entire roster is theirs outside of 2 of their 3 best players in Dexter Lawrence and Andrew Thomas. You've re-signed Darius Slayton twice, and the other 2 guys are specialists, and Graham Gano and Casey Kreider. The entire roster is yours. It's year 4. If I was a beat reporter and I got to ask Joe Schoen at a press conference, it should be like, if you guys don't win more games than you lose, is that a failure of a season? And if it's not, why not? Even though he wouldn't answer that question.
Yeah.
Well, and I wonder what they're thinking too. Like when they actually get the schedule and they look at this, do you think that Joe Schoen and Dable are looking at the roster and the players and thinking like, all right, I know we have to have a tough schedule, but we're good enough that we can figure this out. That's something that I really wonder because I think we all agree that Shane Bowen is on the hot seat. He has more talent this year. It's up to him. He has to figure it out. But you're looking at the schedule and these quarterbacks and these teams that you're going against. And, I think they can get lucky with week 1 and week 2. You're catching, Jaden Daniels, it's year 2. We talked about this. Maybe guys kind of step back in year 2. You never know. And then Brian Schottenheimer and a new coach in week 2. So I think there maybe from their perspective, there's a little bit of optimism to start off the season. But if I'm a realistic Giants fan or someone in the building, they are one of the few teams who every single year takes them until week 4 to figure it out. They are one of the only teams that looks like an absolute shit show weeks 1 through 4. They're unprepared. They're undisciplined. Half the time, guys are out of line. They don't know what they're doing. They're getting penalties left and right. I don't know how you're the Giants. You think, all right, we're going to get off to a fast start this year. We couldn't do it the last 3 years, and we couldn't do it under the last coaching staff. But, this year we have to save our ass, so we're going to figure it out and do it.
Well, to be fair, I mean, the Giants have been a shit show weeks 5 through 17 as well, so it doesn't really matter. It's been pretty bad.
It's not specific, just to the beginning.
You want to know a stat? How many points have the Giants scored in week 1 under Brian Dable?
Well, let me think.
Bob. 0 against Dallas.
Average, you mean?
In all 3 years.
The Tennessee game, what did they score? They scored about 19 or so. It was like around 20.
I forgot what the score was against Tennessee, but
I'm
I know we
pulling it
scored
up right
It
now.
was 22-21.
It was
Yeah, I think
21.
you're
So
right.
they've
I think-
scored
yeah.
27, and in the first half, they've scored a combined 3 points of in week 1 games. So
That's insane.
So this is what the like you guys saying, they can steal some games, right? Do it, because if you can do it, if you don't, then I don't want to hear any more excuses. I want a new regime in here, right? Like they improved. Show me with wins and losses. Don't show me with just progress of we like this rookie class and this safety has a lot of tackles and Darius Muasau is playing. Like, show me with wins, because if you can do it, and everyone who is optimistic is saying they can do it, then do it. If not, then I want this regime gone.
Well, I agree, because I mean, I say this all the time when it comes to like the fan base. The fan base is frustrated as hell with this organization. Why shouldn't they? We've been a shit show, been a train wreck for the better part of 15 years now, and it does never get any easier for us. And I say it all the time. It doesn't matter. Like, the fan base doesn't seem to agree on a lot of stuff, but what they do agree on is that we need to win. And that's really all that's going to, Joe Schoen is going to get praised if we win. Yeah, the drafts are great on paper, but you don't win the games on paper. You win them on the field. We got to win some games. They got to find a way to win some games. Starting off 1-0 would be so huge for this team. I really feel like they can beat Washington. I just
go start 1-0, please.
Yeah.
For my mental health, just start 1-0.
For everybody,
if you go 1-16, at least start 1-0. Give me 1 week to be hyped about this team.
Right.
Then it would be a divisional win, which is an added bonus.
Yeah. And it gives them confidence going into Dallas too, right? Like, we beat Washington away. Why can't we beat Dallas now? We put up, assumingly 2 touchdowns at the least. So why can't we do it in Dallas too?
It would also not Washington back a peg, which would be great for them, because they're riding high right now. I think if they're going somewhere, it'd be nice for the Giants and knock a sense of reality back into that organization there. Andrew, thank you. Andrew always just hi. Hello, Andrew.
He didn't even get the eye out this time. He's too
He
excited.
didn't, but we know what he means, because he's Andrew. And hey, Andrew.
Cute dog.
Chris and Bad Dog's intern, thank you. What's your thoughts on a trade for Olave? What would you give up for him, or would you stay away completely due to injury history? By the way, we're going 10-7, 4-2 in the division. First game ends 77. I don't know.
That's what Bobby always predicts on Twitter.
That's not always, but it's my usual score prediction.
There you go. 77-0. Shout out to I like the 10-7. 4-2 in the division. We'd have to beat the Eagles, because I don't think we're sweeping Dallas and Washington, but 4-2 in the division be pretty sweet. You guys have any thoughts on Olave?
I really like Olave, but if there's any position the Giants don't need to trade for, it's wide receiver. And he does have that injury history, which worries me, because I'm a big fan of Olave. I think with better QB play and on a better team, he'd be one of the more talked about receivers, but not for the Giants, no. They just gave up draft capital for a quarterback. They don't need to be giving up anymore.
Yeah. I agree. I think next year is when you make your split. Like I've talked about on the show, I think next year you make your splash at that position in free agency. I think they do what the Giants did with Eli his second year, get a burst like free agent to pair with neighbors. But I agree with Bobby in the sense that I don't want to be giving up draft capital for Chris Olave. I'll wait till next year and either take one early in next year's draft or spend big in free agency. I don't want to give up draft capital.
Yeah,
I feel the same way. I like Olave. I think he's a really talented player that has been maximized in New Orleans, but we already gave up a potential or a top 100 pick with the 3rd round pick to move up and get Jackson Dart. I have to assume that the Saints would be looking for a top 100 pick for Chris Olave. Plus, he's entering the final year of his rookie contract. You're going to have to pay him, and the Giants right now have $1 million in cap space, which I think a lot of fans fail to realize. They're negative $9 million in effective cap space. Like, not only should they avoid trading for players that they're going to have to pay, they should be making restructures and extensions right now to get their cap space in a normal spot, because negative $9 million in effective cap space is going to hold them back later on this summer. So they're going to have to restructure either Burns, Lawrence, Thomas, whoever it's going to be, and they're going to have to cut some players. Daniel Bellinger might be on the roster bubble as a result of this. So I don't think that looking for acquisitions right now is what the Giants should be doing, unless it's a low-key move like the Gabe Davis one that I think might happen.
Yeah.
I can't see him trading. I can't see him trading for a wide receiver either. It's not like we're one player away, and that's the thing. When you're still trying to rebuild, I think you want to keep your draft capital and not go out there and, like you said, Anthony, get a guy that's on last year of his contract coming off an injury that'd be a big time risk. Olave is more of, like I said, a piece for a team that could really use, that's really like right there in the preface of being a Super Bowl contender. We're not there yet. And to Chris's point, I know we mentioned on the show, they took major swings to the defense this offseason. And next year, when Jackson Dart should be the starting quarterback, hopefully that's what they do. Maybe he plays a couple of games in this year, but next year he comes in as the starter. You're definitely going to build around him. You're definitely going to get a wide receiver one way or the other. You're probably going to take major swings at the offensive line. And, you're probably going to find another running back or something someplace, because I don't think Singletary is going to be around next year. So, but I do think they're going to take major swings at that offense to, give Jackson Dart the best possible situation to succeed. And as bad as Daniel Jones was here, for fair, they never did anything for him for most of his tenure with the New York Giants. So they're not going to make that same mistake with Jackson Dart. Not that was Joe Schoen and Brian Dable that made that mistake. A lot of that was Dave Gettleman. But Joe Schoen didn't draft any offensive linemen last year. So, he didn't really take major swings. He did a good job in free agency, adding Runyon and bringing in Van Roten and, so.
Illuminor. Don't leave off Illuminor.
Right, Illuminor. Age 50, thank you, says, please keep Bobby on the show. You'll be glad you did.
Bobby's welcome anytime he wants.
Of course. This show is actually run by a production team, but Bobby's welcome back anytime. Bobby's the man. Everybody knows Bobby. That wasn't my phone. Okay. But thank you, Pharaoh. Appreciate you, brother. Quote. Thank you, brother. Russ, QBR 22nd last year. Passer rating 14th, so maybe 18th quarterback in the league.
I think that's probably his ceiling, like a slightly below average starting quarterback. Yeah, I think that's probably if he stays healthy, and I think he could hit that with Dable and Neighbors. But I can't see him being much better than that.
Yeah.
A lot of
I can do that.
Yeah.
He's 21st and let me ask you this. I'm interested to just see what the offense looks like, not like how good is Russ. It's like, because Neighbors is going to be Neighbors. Slayton, I think, benefits, and he'll get more explosives. My question is, how is Wandale going to be used? Because Russ is famously bad at the quick game, and that, like, even though they weren't using Wandale well, I don't think. He at least got a lot of targets. So it'd be interesting to see like how the whole Wandale situation goes, because he's someone like, he's up for a contract extension, and there's just really no good comps for him, right? I thought like the Khalil Shakir deal would come in, and it's like, all right, kind of go a little lower than that. And then Shakir got like 13 mil per year, and I don't know if they're going to do that. So that's the things I'm interested in. Russ is not like, where is he going to be ranked as like, quarter QBR, is how does the offense look in a Brian Dable offense with him? Is he going to take the same amount of sacks, the quick game?
John Michael Smith look better with a more developed quarterback with pre-snap reads and stuff. I think that's something too.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of different things. I'm interested to see what the offense, like the structure of the offense, looks like when you bring in a quarterback who's been established and kind of does what he does for so long.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely an upgrade over what we had. I think Russ is much more accurate, and again, to Chris's point, pre-snap reads, audibles at the line of scrimmage. It should, and I think Anthony mentioned this a few shows ago, with a guy like Russ behind center, it should take a lot of pressure off John Michael Schmitz, and you'd hope that he can finally take that step forward that he hasn't, because there's a lot of pressure on him. And it would definitely help if our line stayed healthy, because I don't really care what the line is. If you're constantly shifting guys out of position, then this guy gets hurt, you don't know who's playing next year week in and week out. It's hard to build any kind of continuity or chemistry when you don't all play together all year long. So let's just hope the line can stay generally healthy. I know injuries are part of football, but it seems like we're always snake bitten. Our offensive line isn't great to begin with, and we constantly deal with injuries. It definitely doesn't help.
And Russ at his worst is also going to create explosives. Even at his like low point in Denver, he was still like top 5 in deep passing rate and completion rate. So those don't make you a good offense, but what it does is it at least puts field goals on the board, because you get put in field goal range with just one play.
Yeah. It also it listens the defense up a little bit too, when you're not just jumping everything underneath, because you knew that the previous quarterback wasn't going to take deep shots down the field for whatever reason, whether it was pressure in his face early on, or he just didn't like the throw, or whatever it was. He checked down a lot. And Russ, so I don't remember who said it, man. It's my favorite saying, fuck it, leak down there somewhere. He's just going to throw it, heat the ball up the league and let him make a play on it. Russ will do that.
I hope so.
Trenton, thank you. He says, Jalen Hurts clears. Love the content, though.
I mean, he
Hard to
cleared
argue.
Russell Wilson, if that's what he means. He definitely cleared
Yeah,
Russell.
yeah. Well, I think when we put the stat of the quarterbacks up there, I mean, it's hard to argue. I mean,
I know he won the Super Bowl last year, but if I was doing a draft today, and I know it's only been 1 year, and he could have a sophomore slump, and he could get hurt, you have to put Jaden Daniels 1. Like, to me, he looked like he's another level. He elevated that team.
No question.
I think he's the second best QB in the NFC after Stafford.
Yeah, he's really good. I was very impressed with his poise in those big games. I thought he did a really good job, but let's hope he has a sophomore slump. At least week 1. Let's hope he stinks.
Or hope that Abdul Carter can get to him, because no one else on our team could do it last year, but we've got Carter now, and maybe he'll be able to do it at least once.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
we need Abdul Carter. We need this defensive line to make some plays without question. I also think having a stronger secondary is going to help a lot. But Shane Bone don't like the blitz, so there's going to be a lot of pressure on that front four to get pressure without blitzing, and Abdul Carter is certainly going to help that. Without question, but Jaden Daniels is definitely special. I don't think anybody that watched him would say otherwise. H50, thank you again, my friend. Appreciate you. How many total sacks did the Giants have this year? Anybody can start.
I want to pull up their total sacks last year. So
they had 45 last year, and they were 8th. So they were good. That's like one of the good defensive categories.
They had like 20 of those in the first 5 weeks.
Yeah, it was like 8 against Cleveland, 8 against was Cincinnati. Did they get a bunch in that one? So I'll say 47, a little bit of a bump there, and
but
that would put them ranked 6th in the NFL.
47, like spaced out over the course of the year.
Now remember though, Dex had 9 sacks and then he got hurt. That was a career high for Dex. True, and Thibodeau missed 5 games too, so they both missed 5 games, and there was no Abdul Carter.
I think they're going to get a lot because.
Dude, I'm so excited to watch Carter play. Just watch him play.
Alone is talented, but a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, who we played twice, you would think his style of play would lend itself to a lot of sack opportunities. I could see 50 plus for the Giants in terms of the sack. I don't know if that's going to translate to 8 wins, 9 wins, but I think the Giants are going to have a lot of sacks.
I'm going to take 51, Abdul Carter's number.
I like
it. Nice.
Anthony, you got a prediction?
I think they'll crack 50. Only 3 teams did that last year, though. The Broncos led the NFL by like a wide margin with 63 total sacks. I think that's kind of an unrealistic expectation, even if you're really optimistic about this Giants defensive line. But I think they've got a lot of great pass rushers, and I think you made a great point, Bad Dog. There were a lot of injuries on the defensive line as well, with Thibodeau and Lawrence missing games. So I think 50 is somewhat realistic for this defensive line.
The quick passing game in the NFL now nullifies a lot of the pass rush, but I'm saying it, 56, and why not? Because 56 is the greatest defensive player in the history of the NFL. So let's get 56 sacks. Well, and Abdul Carter couldn't wear 56, so let's just get 56 sacks and call it a day. I think that'd be good. It's 3 a game, 3.5 a game. They could do that. They could get 10 against the Saints anyway.
You got to think the improved secondary is going to lend itself to more sack opportunities too. So
right, yeah, better coverage sacks. It definitely could be. A-Train, thank you, brother. 2011 vibes. I wish.
With what? The offensive line?
What's that?
I said with what? The offensive line?
Oh, yeah.
Bobby, I don't remember if I asked you this when I was on your show like a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember. One thing that I thought was a clear strategy for the Giants in terms of the offensive line, and I have to ask you because you're the offensive line guy. Former offensive lineman, you do great breakdowns on the offensive line. How important do you think continuity is for an offensive line? Because over the last 8, 9, 10 years, the Giants really haven't brought back the same line year over year. At least it feels that way to me. Like there's always a new guy, or they're shifting guys on the line. This year they brought back the same 5 starters. At least.
I think that when they were a good pass protecting group with Thomason, and even when Thomas went down, we've seen Thomas go down, and we've seen like disaster type of offensive line play. It wasn't that. It was basically just like Chris Hubbard or Evan Neal got beat like more times in a game than good tackles do. But I think that's specifically with this group, because JMS, I think, has the mental game pretty solid. And Runyon and Greg Van Roten and Jermaine Illuminor, and obviously Thomas as well, they all have the mental part of the game down. And then you get Bo, who's like the swing player. He's like
Don't forget Evan Neal. Do you think he's got a shot to maybe sneak on as a guard?
No, he doesn't have it, man.
Yeah.
But no, it's not even just the continuity. It's just the group of guys they have are guys who have played a lot of football and know where to be. I mean, Marcus McKeithen got beat one-on-one a lot too, but also watching him, it's like he's just in the wrong spot at almost every single play. I even look back at like the end of that Buffalo Bills game where it was like, why the hell did Tyrod check into a run? Which I agree, he shouldn't have checked into a run. But Evan Neal blocks the wrong person on that. And if he does block the right person, well, they probably score a touchdown. And we're like, man, that was ballsy to go forward and run the touchdown. They win that game. So I think the guys they have are really on the same page and know where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, with that said, that'll bring us to a close of another edition of Giants Collective. I want to thank Bobby for coming on the channel. Really appreciate your time and insight on the schedule and everything not everything that went on Giants. So we'd be here for hours if we picked your brain about what you thought about everything that happened in the offseason. But maybe we can have you back in the future. And,
no doubt.
We'll get more of that.
And of course, check out his channel, of course.
Oh, of course. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody in here knows about it.
You got like 100,000 subscribers the first week.
I'm trying. I got to build. That's the thing is I need to build up the subscribers back. That's like the main thing. I want to get my subscribers
You'll get
back.
there, man. You'll get there. You'll get there. Big shout out to BetUS for promoting a stream. You guys can become channel members. If you choose, just click the join button. You get the custom emojis, monthly member messages. Next week, you're going to get your name in the outro. And you'll have access to members-only live chats. We're also available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. And check all that stuff out. We're also on Instagram and TikTok now. All the links to those platforms are in the description below. And check it out. We always appreciate everybody tuning in to this channel. I had over 400 people here in the middle of May. That's always a good thing. If you haven't done so, hit the like on this video and subscribe. We're almost at 4,800, closing on 5,000. So with that said, we're going to get out of here. Thank you, Bobby. For Adriana, who's going to be in Greece. Enjoy Greece.
Awesome.
Enjoy Greece. It's just going to be a three-man show here the next couple of shows. And Atena, Anthony, enjoy the rest of your hump day, everybody. And we'll see you next time for Giants Collective. We out.